So Ilya, Jillian, thank you for chatting with me today about the Christophany groups.
Thanks, Greg. Nice to be here.
Jillian. Great to be here, Greg.
Great, thank you. I think the groups are one of the most exciting and essential efforts that we have at the center. David Sloan Wilson, who did a webinar just recently, the evolutionary biologist, often notes that small groups are the primary unit of evolution. And our Christophany groups, I believe, play a role similar to that in the spiritual evolution of our time. Ilya, why are the groups important? And why is their individuality and their uniqueness key to their impact?
Yeah, so the groups are local, and that means there are small local groups all over the United States, in Canada, Europe, Australia, all throughout the world. And so I'm interesting that you mentioned David Sloan Wilson, because evolution is always local. It never works in some global universal fashion. And so as we try to understand these shifts in religion, in our theological concepts, they are embedded in cultures. So we have to understand these shifts within the cultures in which we find ourselves. And so having kind of like-minded persons in small groups, even if they are geographically, at some distance, it allows an exchange of ideas. It allows people to grapple with these ideas. When they don't understand, they can challenge one another and they can help one another. I think there's a level of cooperation in a small Christophany group, and maybe a level of symbiosis that, what one person lacks, another person has, and then together they kind of mutually enrich one another in this shift of understanding. And so I do think that if we're going to evolve into a new paradigm of God, human, and world, that the Christophany groups and similar groups will be essential to this evolutionary shift.
And that locality then, right, if evolution is local, is so key, that these groups are local to themselves, to their communities, to their concerns, to their experiences, and also to their approach, how they approach the work, how they approach this vision, and allowing them not to be subject to sort of a top-down, heavy, here's how you'll be a Christophany group, but rather to allow that beautiful uniqueness to shine. And that's what this creation is all about, right? That's why there are individuals in creation.
Yeah, and I think Jillian will be able to speak to more on this, because she has really now worked quite closely with the Christophany groups. And we're grateful, Jillian, for your work here, because it's really essential. Because you're dealing with not just groups, but persons within groups, right? Mm-hmm. And every person is coming with their own history, their own sense of, religious meaning and religious concepts. And so it really takes a type of patient understanding to gently lead people into new ideas. And I think small groups make that gentle leading more manageable, so to speak. It's easier to be done than trying to lead a large group. So I'm just grateful for the Christophany groups that Jillian and Isabel have been spearheading. And I probably would just turn it over to Jillian to say more on them.
Absolutely. Jillian, you're the group coordinator, and you have the benefit of knowing all of the groups. You're always talking with their group leaders. You're always telling me something interesting that you've heard in a recent conversation or Zoom. What are some of the exciting things you can share about the groups?
Yeah, so I do want to emphasize what a benefit and privilege it is that I do have the opportunity to really stay connected with group leaders from all over the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland. It's really fabulous to see this diversity of location, as well as a diversity of, I think the best word that I've used to describe it before is charism. And I mean that in just the way that these groups express how they are encountering Christogenesis, Christophany in their own lives. So I always tell my groups when they start a new group, I'm a very academic person, so I want to read books and I want to talk about them with my peers. But a lot of the folks that come to me wanting to lead a group don't have academic backgrounds and want to focus more on where they're experiencing the work that Ilya and the Center for Christogenesis is doing in their own lives. And so I've seen groups take a book club approach and read through books, talk about ideas together, which is great. I've seen groups that simply focus on the question, what is Christogenesis? Where am I experiencing it every day? As the only question that they discuss every week, and have fruitful conversations for an hour and a half on that topic. We also have groups that are really interested in Visio Divina and spend time contemplating nature, contemplating images, and entering into a spiritual discussion based on that contemplative movement that they're not just doing individually, but they're doing collectively. And I believe that by whether they're doing a book club, they're talking about big questions, or they're looking at artwork, or whatever form their group takes, they are having an experience that happens, that's happening collectively, and it's an exercise in co-reflection. They're creating something new that they couldn't experience individually, and it's a very beautiful thing to witness and to be that gentle guide in.
No, that's great. You're doing an amazing job, as Ilya said, and I feel like the groups have really blossomed as a result of your leadership there, and all the assistance that you've given the groups, and allowing them to be their unique selves, and getting them to understand, no, you really can do it this way. We're not going to tell you how to do your spiritual journey. That's up to you. And just give them some of the tools. What are some of the tools that we provide to help the groups be groups?
Yeah, so usually when I have a group member or a prospective group leader or group member come to me, I like to gauge their interests, see what their background is, and then help to lead them towards some resources. So like I mentioned, I really thrive with an academic kind of focus. And I think a lot of other folks are at least familiar with that method. So I'll lead them to an article, I'll provide them with some questions, I'll plug them into a group, and help them to get acquainted with the material. After about a week or two, I check in to make sure that they have found a good fit, or a troubleshoot what might be not clicking for them. And then throughout the process, I check in with the groups about once a month. I check in with leaders to make sure that they have members who are attending, troubleshoot, the awkward silences you have to navigate whenever you have a group discussion, and help them to find exactly how they want to continue this journey, this spiritual journey that they're having. So while they might start with, reading a chapter in a book together, they might realize we're really benefiting by just talking about our own spiritual reflections, and move towards practicing a more contemplative type of gathering, rather than spending time just with group discussion. So I converse with groups, I converse with members in order to help guide them in the direction that's unfolding before them on this journey.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it's really, you work so hard to make sure that there's a fit, and that people feel like they find a home, and then allowing them to explore that space. It's incredible work. Thanks, Julia.
Yeah.
So this is really important. A lot of people, in the last video, Ilya and I were talking about hopes and fears. And I think a lot of people hope that they can join a group, and they have a lot of fears about starting them. So let me ask you, how do they start a group? Is it difficult? Will they have help? Tell them to be not afraid, and that you will help shepherd them on their path of starting a new group.
Well, I mean, that is the reality. It is, of course, intimidating when you hear the word leadership or facilitation, or I have to be the spearhead of this group. But the reality is, we want Christogenesis groups to be an opportunity for you to gather with a group of like-minded people who hold similar beliefs as you, people who want to support you, and people who are also interested in going on this journey with you. So if you take up a facilitation role, if you take up a leadership role, you're not, being thrown to the wolves. You're entering into a camaraderie with people who want to grow alongside of you. So I offer that as always the first confirmation to folks who want to join a group of, hey, you're about to go on an awesome journey. But more on the practical side, it is incredibly easy to start a group. And I would love to see more folks take that initiative, because starting a group is a really exciting process. Joining a group is awesome as well, but starting a group gives you the opportunity to really reflect on what's going on inside. How can you best grow? And so what I do when someone wants to come join a group, we talk a little bit, usually over a Zoom call. I give them, here is what I do when I join a new group and help them I basically give them an outline for the first group meeting. I plug them in with other people who are interested in having that conversation. They report back to me how that meeting went. And then we work together to find materials, to find discussion questions, to find exercises that we think will be helpful. So I always tell my prospective leaders, my group members, that I am with you 100% of the time. I'm available whenever you need me. And I'm always willing to, if I don't have the answer, direct the question to someone who can help. And in the upcoming months, we're planning to have a couple of events, some workshops to make groups even more successful and easier to start and maintain as this organization continues to grow and flourish.
Yeah.
So you were telling them you'll be with them always, basically.
Always. Yeah, it's a promise. 24/7.
So a question for both of you, starting with Ilya. Ilya, where would you like to see the groups in 3 years? What are you hoping will happen over the course of the next 3 years with the Christophany groups?
Yeah, I do think as the overall vision of C4C continues to grow, and by that I mean, I do see C4C moving into collaborative relationships up ahead. In other words, as we spoke before, a spirituality or religion cannot exist in an isolated form in the 21st century. It is part of our politics. It's part of our works for social justice. It's part of our ecology. And so we have to begin the work of reinserting religion within the complexities of the world that itself is emerging into something new. And I think the Christophany groups will continue, certainly, the work of Christogenesis, which itself is the work of complexifying divine love in a world of becoming. Mm-hmm. And so to deepen our understanding of that it's an ongoing deepening of understanding. I do think at some point the Christophany groups, it might be good to bring them together in some type of matrix or interaction. The way biology works, it's local, but then over time, these little local groups begin to aggregate. And as they aggregate, they form a new type of whole and, holes within holes idea. And so I could see as the work of C4C grows and expands in new ways, that the Christophany groups will also grow and expand in new ways. They will not remain as maybe even individual. We'll see how the future, the future is always the unknown, because it's, in a sense, it's our own creative participation and imagination that shapes that future. So it's a constant interpretation of, what does this mean in terms of this birthing of the Christ, the birthing of divine love in this ongoing emergent material universe. And I think it can be quite exciting, quite honestly. Maybe the whole world will become one giant Christophany group up ahead. I'm only kidding. But
all right, that the world is one giant Christophany group. 3 years, go.
So we are the dream, the fullness of this body, of Christ. In a world of world religions or no religions, we have to really reimagine what that means. And of course, maybe the language itself is not inviting to some people. So, maybe Christophany will find some new language and new meaning up ahead as well. So I always say, stay tuned. The best is yet to come,
And Julian, what do you think? What are your hopes for the next 3 years with the groups?
Yeah, I was going to say those are some hard goals to top. And I feel like my job description just expanded cosmologically. However, I do echo a lot of what you're saying, Ilya, because I agree. I would love to see, I'm always excited about the future of the groups. And in a way, you're right. The future is unknown. However, I firmly believe that at the heart, the energy, the core of these groups is the power of love. And I've been reflecting a lot on the creative power of love, as I think we all should. And so I would love to see the core of both individual groups as well as the mission of Christophany groups on the whole really embrace that draw towards greater creativity. And so I would love to see, as we mentioned earlier, groups taking on these different and diverse charisms to really find what's going to lead us further on this journey into the heart of love, into the heart of creative love. And I would also really like to see how the love that is at the center of these groups can be expansive and can touch others. As a young person, I'm always thinking about young people, and I think these groups have a potential to reach the children of our group members, the grandchildren of these group members, and for young people to see a community rooted in love, rooted in curiosity, rooted in ongoing creativity, and be drawn to become a part of that, even whether that's consciously, signing up on the website, or unconsciously being drawn into that creativity that they see mirrored in their caregivers and peers. I have high hopes for what these groups can do, and while this might not be a 3-year goal, it is my ultimate goal to see these groups really grow into something that not only has an impact, on my spreadsheets that I keep of the groups that we have, but at the heart of those who these group members come into contact with. That's what I want to see.
Yeah,
it's so exciting. I hear you talking about convergence, Ilya, and Julian, you're talking about creativity. And I think about the fact that sometimes our hidden mission, I think, is letting God be God. Religion has had a tendency sometimes in the past to both not allow convergence with other religions and extra religious ideas, and to tell people exactly what to do at a local level when that wasn't the best thing there was. And so letting God be God maybe is part of what we're about. But this is so exciting. I mean, these groups, from when I first got involved with the organization, I thought, wow, this is something truly decentralized, truly open system, really forward thinking. And I just think it's one of the most exciting things that we do at the center. And Julian, you've done amazing work.
Yeah, so. I want to echo that. And I actually love the focus, Julian, on the primacy of love. I do think, I just wrote a little book called The Primacy of Love, which will be coming out in January. So I do think if we can reclaim love as our core reality on and really an authentic love, not a superficial love, but the love that requires, that's about relationship, suffering with others, rejoicing with others, celebrating life, and yet, walking together through the pains of life, the struggles, as we move into something more together. I think, Teilhard did think that there's a metaphysics here, that the meta, what is it that holds the whole together? In a sense, he said it's unity, and that unity for him was love unity. And so to reclaim love as our deepest reality in a world that's so full of sorrow and suffering, I think can really move us to a whole new level of compassion and peace. And maybe really one day we can find justice around this planet if love is our core reality.
Well, on that note, on the primacy of love and the amazing work that's being done for these groups to advance that love, thank you, Ilya and Julian, today.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.